Welcome back to the Business of Enterprise IT podcast. We're going to pick back up from the previous episode where we left off. Hope you enjoy. So one thing I'd like to make sure we talk about is the customers that APSU is already doing, and they obviously don't have a direct contract with end users. There is always a partner in place. Mm-hmm. But let's just say the customers that are already plugged into APSU's cloud technology and managed services technology, mm-hmm. What are the most common scenarios? And I bring this up because when we were talking to some of our IBM partner representatives, we were talking through a lot of scenarios about, there's a whole bunch of companies out here in this space that would love to hear this message. And so I want to make sure we hit on some of those scenarios, maybe through some of the companies that are already using APSU's technology, mm-hmm. and then some of those potential companies out there who have a system in place that this would be a very appealing move for them to make use of the technology. And one of the things we talked about with our IBM partner representatives was people who have invested in the power system. They've purchased IBM power equipment in the past, mm-hmm. and maybe that equipment is either nearing or maybe past end of life to where maintenance is about to expire, maybe maintenance already expired. Mm-hmm. And I heard a lot of conversation about how maintaining old equipment can be extremely expensive. Mm-hmm. And so then you're looking at a decision on whether to continue to invest in the IBM Power ecosystem by buying new equipment, whether you just want to run unsupported and take the risks associated with that, whether you want to pay the cost of the maintenance on the old stuff. How is the APSU product, the cloud technology, a good fit for companies who are in that scenario?
Well, there's several key themes that seem to come up with clients that we work with in this space, right? To your point, it's not uncommon for them to have systems that are running in their environment that are 4, 5, 6, or 7 years old. Again, these are mid-range systems. They're built to a higher standard because of the reliability and availability requirements that the customers place on them. They're hardened systems, and they're designed to be more reliable and more durable than some of the open systems that are out there today. So a lot of customers we engage with are like, okay, my system is 4 or 5 years old. I know it needs to be replaced. They're expensive. They're not inexpensive, related to open systems, x86. So that's a driver a lot of times. Do I want to make that big investment for another 4 or 5 years and do something on premise, right? So that's a conversation that is often involved when we engage with clients. The other paradigm that we run into quite a bit is, we've been using this platform for 15, 20 years because it's been around a long time, whether it's iSeries or AIX, and the IT resources that we had or have that know this technology and can support it is either getting ready to retire or has already retired, and so we're nervous that we don't have the skills in-house to effectively manage and run this environment moving forward. And part of just, again, you kind of go back to the cloud discussion. Why did everybody jump into x86 open source first? Because that's the part of the market that's growing the most, to be honest. So our universities and our technical schools are producing people who have skills in what? x86 and open systems, right? So it's not like colleges are spitting out a lot of people that know the iSeries operating system. It's green screen. It's not GUI. You don't need a mouse. And it's not something that young people get excited about, that they want to go learn that platform. But at the end of the day, when you look at the, you look at the distribution, transportation distribution industry, you look at some of these industries, it's still a huge, part of what they do. I mean, the airline industry, when you go up to an airline agent, he or she is back there hitting, function keys. That's because they're running on a mainframe, right? And there's a reason they're running on a mainframe. It's the only thing big enough to handle it. Okay, so most of the customers we talk to, they're dealing with one, an aspect of just the platform, the age of the technology, the age of the equipment that's installed. Are they still making new servers? Yes. IBM's getting ready to release the Power 9 server, which is a replacement for the Power 8. And as you would expect, it's bigger, faster, stronger. You get more compute per dollar and all that stuff, just like everything else. But at the end of the day, you have to know how to take the workloads that you have today. You have to migrate them to new operating systems. You have to migrate them to the new platform, and a lot of people are looking to say, look, I don't want to have that responsibility anymore. I just want to know it works. Just like when I walk up to my electrical outlet in my office and I plug something in, I expect there to be electricity there. I would like you to take my application and run it for me so that when I log onto my system in the morning, I know that somebody's been taking care of it and making sure that it's going to be there when I show up to work at 8 o'clock on Monday morning.
Yeah.
And that my customers can access it 7x24 if they need to, which again, that's very common these days as well.
And you mentioned, airlines using the mainframe systems because they can handle those workloads. I think another thing we were discussing with IBM is, a lot of IBM's focus, it seems, is putting out the systems that will support some of the most heavy ERP and other applications out there. And we were talking about SAP HANA and how they have, they're coming out with the Power 9 server specifically configured to run HANA in an optimal environment. And so, businesses who are out there running SAP, and we mentioned Oracle and JD Edwards and some of these other applications, if they're running Power, it's probably that they chose that platform because it was a more powerful platform than the x86 alternative. Would that be a correct assessment?
Yeah, it is. There's a couple things to think about when you look at a choice between using an IBM, a mid-range platform, and an open source platform. Is if you look at iSeries, I mean, there's never been a virus in iSeries. It's not the way that it's constructed, the same as mainframe. The way that they ring the kernels and the operating systems with access rights and security. I mean, they've never been broken, right? Now you can have things that come in through the through the client side, right, where they're using x86 and it can get in and cause problems, and that you have to take steps to monitor and manage for that. But when you look at those core operating systems from a security perspective, it's not debatable which ones are more secure, right? The mid-range and mainframe are clearly more secure, right? And so the airline industry is a great example. I mean, if you just think what would happen, think about the millions of dollars a minute that would be lost if we could no longer, the airline industry would stop operating for a day and flights would be canceled, and I mean, it'd be catastrophic to the economy of the United States, frankly. Think back to 9/11. I mean, when airlines couldn't fly for a couple days, I mean, it was a problem. So, there's a reason that people go through that cost-benefit analysis. The other side of it is, and we've talked about this a little bit previously, is just the performance aspect. If you go to a mid-range or a mainframe platform, you've got a much more capable backplane in the system, so they can move much larger chunks of data in less time. So when you look at the licensing cost of some of these applications where they license them per core, you can actually realize a cost reduction because you're using the same license to do effectively more work. And depending on whose numbers you believe, I mean, you can see up to an 80% increase in efficiency going to a mid-range platform in, say, an SAP environment versus an x86 environment, because just the ability of the processor, the backplane, the memory subsystem to be more effective and be more rapid in the way that it handles these transactions. So you can actually see a reduction in your software licensing costs, which more than offsets the additional cost of buying the more expensive equipment. And then when you factor in the fact that it's more secure, you have operating systems that have never been breached by some of the things that commonly affect open systems. It just becomes, there's a reason that large companies use these platforms for their most mission critical applications. Yeah. And when you look at HANA, I mean, that's something we're working with clients on as well, that we have the ability to create environments in the cloud where they can move their HANA instances up as well. And that's an area that is underserved in the market, we believe. Yeah. And we've talked to, I was on the phone with a customer last week here in East Tennessee, a higher ed client, and they had been searching for over 6 months to find somebody who could fit that need, and that's something that we can do. Yeah. And so they were very happy to hear that we were able to do that, and we're in a conversation with them about what that would look like.
So, I mean, it sounds like when you talk about the cloud offering, the production-ready cloud offering that's built out now, not having the limitation of only serving the x86 market is a real differentiator. And in the production-ready cloud, I think it needs to be said that there is also a stack to serve x86. Mm-hmm. So really this cloud is built out as a multi-operating system, multi-architected infrastructure to support all of those IBM systems plus the entire x86 market as well.
Absolutely. So when you look at these mid-range systems, right, it's very, very common that there are support applications, database servers, web servers, load balancers, things that run in x86 that are needed to provision the service that the customer is looking to use, right? So more often than not, when we bring a mid-range workload into our cloud environment, there are x86 servers that come along with it, right, that are needed. We just brought a client in here over the past weekend, and I think they had 50 x86-based machines, either Windows or Linux, and they had, I think 6 power machines, right? But they need all of them to run their application stack and how they support their clients. So the other thing I think that this whole exercise has given us, because again, when you think about the mid-range environment, you're thinking about very mission critical applications, customers who are used to a very high level of availability. They're used to not having to worry about all the security threats that you have in the open systems world. So we have a higher standard, right, that we have to meet, right? So we don't dumb it down on the x86 side, right? We do everything at the same standard. So the same NOC that's managing the mid-range environment is managing the x86 environment. So you're going to get the same attention to detail, because if you don't have one, the other isn't much good in most cases when you have both environments needed to deliver an application suite for a client. So it's been, I think, just a really beneficial exercise to take on this new challenge and to integrate what APSU has been doing for 20 plus years into what we're doing, and to see the lessons learned and all of the processes and the procedures that they've developed over the years to make sure that things are managed in the right way and looked after in the right way, and that their customers can expect the level of availability that they're promised in their, contractually. And we've taken a lot of that and we've applied it to our x86 production ready cloud, and it's really one environment. It's just expanded to offer, to your point, not just what the hyperscalers offer, which is Linux and Microsoft in the cloud, support. It's also offering IBM mid-range, whether it be AIX, Linux on Power, or iSeries, which for some of us who've been around a while, that's the old AS400s. But there's thousands of those machines out there across the U.S. And you know, again, that goes back to how InfoSystems has made its living for the last 25 years. I mean, you know, IBM doesn't even sell x86 servers anymore. So every server we sell for IBM is a mid-range server.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So kind of stepping back from the more technical discussion and getting back to, you know, talking about APSU and InfoSystems, the business discussion. I know there's been, you know, and APSU is actively working to bring on partners through their channel program. Can you talk about some of the excitement? I know you've had some direct experience working with some of these channel partners. What's your feedback from them, partners who are going to take APSU solutions to market? What's the excitement and feedback like?
Well, it's really actually been tremendous, the reception that we've received, because again, if you think about the situation, the paradigm we talked about earlier with the demographic of the folks out there in the world, in the U.S., that know these platforms, that know how to manage them, that know how to operate them, you know, that's an aging demographic, right? And so again, the universities are not, you know, producing, you know, students that are experts in this area, but yet the companies that use this technology like it. They don't want to go away from it. They rely on it, and they've heard horror stories about, you know, going to the other, you know, the x86 side and all the, you know, the additional resource you need to have. I mean, you can run a very, very large IBM mid-range environment with, you know, half of a person, right? And if you try to replace that in the x86 world, you might need 6, 8, 10 people, and labor's expensive. So it's been very well received, and you know, I was in New Jersey last week with some of the team here, meeting with an InfoSystems like partner that's probably 3 times our size, and they were extremely excited, and you know, it was just opportunity after opportunity. And well, we need to talk to this customer and that customer because we know they're facing these challenges. We've partnered with and we've mentioned it in previous podcasts, so I know it's okay to mention it here. We've partnered with TierPoint. That's our data center provider of choice. They're a colo provider, and they have 42 data centers across the U.S. And they have over 100 salespeople out in the field, and they're selling our solution, the APS solution. And we're, you know, literally getting new opportunities daily where customers are like, oh, they're thankful. Look, we've been looking for something like this. This is a huge need for us. We're taking it through the distribution channel. So, you know, our distributor is pushing the solution out, which is Arrow, is pushing the solution out to other InfoSystems like business partners against the U.S. We have a partner up in Minneapolis. We have, you know, I mentioned earlier, we've onboarded customers on the West Coast, and we're supporting West Coast workloads out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. So we're probably in one way or another touching about all 50 states, either with contracts that are already in place or contracts that are under negotiation. And we really expect it to grow exponentially because there's probably in excess of 100,000 of these systems out there. And again, when you look at the challenges from just a skills perspective, what's available in the field, and also just a satisfaction with the environment because it does what it says it's going to do and it doesn't break, and it's very reliable. We think we've kind of hit a perfect storm here.
Yeah, that's, you know, it's really an exciting scenario. You know, I've talked a lot with like the Company Lab and some other local business accelerators, and there's been so much effort and so much you know, even recruiting all across the United States and around the world to bring technology companies to Chattanooga, because we have kind of a slight advantage here in that we had the country's first gigabit network, gig network, which has been increased to 10 gig and beyond now. But you know, there have been all these programs in place to attract these types of companies that are exciting, technology-based startups that have a lot of room for growth, and technology that really differentiates them in the marketplace. So to see it happening right here in our business is really exciting. And we mentioned at the beginning of this episode that we're having an event at Songbird's Guitar Museum. It's a local venue here in Chattanooga that has a fantastic guitar collection. They do private concerts and stuff like that. We're having a celebration there to celebrate the launch of all this, and really a lot of work. It's not a new launch. There's been work going into this for years, 2 years now. But we're at that tipping point now where a lot of that hard work, a couple of years of hard work, is really paying off. And looking forward, it's a really exciting time and something really exciting to be involved with. So I'm really looking forward to that Songbirds Guitar Museum event where we get to, launch and announce some of these things to some of our close friends in the local community. But I'm also excited about continuing that conversation over the coming years. I know a lot of companies in this region will be working with InfoSystems to implement these solutions, and it's also exciting to see APSU and see them reaching out well beyond Tennessee, all over the United States, working with companies like InfoSystems to take this solution out to their customers as well. I mean, this is a really cool thing. From someone in your position, you have dual roles with InfoSystems and APSU. What's your take on that at this point in your career, to be involved in that?
Well, it's exciting. It's a lot of work, but it's fun. I mean, we're having a good time, and we've got a great team. And we're still operating under the same core values that Clay has operated this business under for the last 25 plus years. Is we're going to do what we say, and we're gonna make sure we deliver above and beyond and exceed the expectations of our customers, if humanly possible. Things don't always go perfectly, but we always do everything that we can do to make sure that the experience is absolutely above and beyond what our customers' expectations are. And I think it's really beneficial to have a leadership position in both organizations, because again, there's so much that's complementary between InfoSystems and APSU that it is really beneficial to have kind of one guy on point from an operational perspective. I mean, Clay clearly strategically still runs, InfoSystems and is co-president of APSU and is a board member and very involved there. But when it comes to the day-to-day operations, I really have responsibility for both organizations. And so, there's never any, us, them, it's we, right? It's really, it's a true partnership. We lovingly call them our sister company. And we've had employees that have moved from one organization to the other, and I think that'll continue. And I think the opportunity as we hire in new employees will be to grow, through both organizations. And so I think it really gives us a tremendous advantage that, you take the 25 plus years of experience in what InfoSystems knows and does well and has proven that we can deliver on, and then the 20 plus years experience of what APSU brings to the table, and you put those together in the market that we're going after here in the U.S., which is clearly underserved. And again, it's a bit of a perfect storm. And right now, honestly, just the opportunities are coming in, very rapidly, and our challenge is just making sure that we're, addressing each one of those customer requests, in a timely fashion, and making sure that we have enough resource to engage with these folks, understand what their requirements are, these companies, and put the right solution in front of them, and get things moving. So it's an exciting time. I think that we're just really at the tip of the iceberg from a growth perspective. I don't know how long the building's going to be big enough, to be honest with you, and that's a great problem to have. And I think it's great news for the city of Chattanooga, because again, we're taking young people out of school and we're indoctrinating them and teaching them in these technologies, which are still extremely important in the U.S. economy. and we're giving them a path to come in. And we've already had some folks that came in as junior operators, and they're already have moved up in this short time, and they're already starting to take more responsibility within the Network Operations Center and have a higher level of responsibility. So I think it's exciting. You know, I've been in the industry 35 years, right? So I got my start. You know, I started working on printers and workstations years ago, and that's how I got my start. It was a junior role, and you know, look where I am today. So I think it's exciting that folks are, you know, young people are able to come in and join us, and you know, they can go as far as their ambition and their intellect takes them, and I think that's an exciting thing.
Yeah, and you know, I've already, just in discussions with people around town, I've already heard from, you know, the local community college expressing interest in how can we prepare students to be ready for that type of role. If you know, if your company's going to be onboarding IT talent over the next few years,
Yeah.
they need to help those students be in position to take those jobs.
Right.
So, you know, for listeners out there, and our demographic is obviously the business leader, so, you know, mid-market and larger companies out there, if you have kids who are, you know, high school and college age, this is a really exciting technology and something that, you know, it's a growing opportunity for IT-related skills to have those specializations beyond what, you know, like you mentioned, the more open systems like the Windows and the Linux systems. The IBM stuff is a much more specialized skill. With specialization also comes advanced pay and other types of opportunities. So, you know, having a company like this here, I mean, that's exciting that, you know, people will be coming in with probably some general skills and you know, be able to choose their career path and take on some highly advanced, to gain that knowledge, grow in their career, help us grow our company. I mean, it's a really exciting endeavor.
Yeah, it's a win-win, and I mean, we've done things with internships in the past. I mean, you know, my son interned between high school and you know, he's at UT now, and so we'll continue to do those types of things, and we've invested in the community, sponsoring some IT type events, and we'll continue to do that. And you know, Clay has always, you know, been top of mind, you know, with his charity work and our you know, the work that we've done in the missionary community and different things. You know, that's not going to change. So our values are the same as they've always been, and you know, and as APSU comes over and we take you know, a larger share of that organization and leadership and ownership and you know, their values aligned with ours in the beginning, or we wouldn't have started this thing. So it's going to continue to get bigger and better, and we're excited, and we think that it's going to be an interesting ride. Yeah. And you know, right now it's just there's never a boring moment because there's always something new, and so at any rate, I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing some folks at the Songbirds event, and we'll be putting on other events around town. And if anybody has any questions, certainly they can reach out. And I'm talking to customers daily. You know, I don't fly above at, you know, 100,000 feet. I engage directly with the clients all over the country. In the last 2 weeks, I've spoken to folks in Texas, California, Arizona, you know, Minneapolis, in the Northeast. So would love to get on the phone and answer people's questions, take them through, you know, understand what their requirements are, and you know, engage with them to see if we can help them. And if we can, wonderful. If we can't, I'll tell them. Yeah. You know, because, you know, right now we've got so much that, you know, it's good. It's a great problem to have, but we're not gonna tell a customer we can deliver something we can't deliver. That's just not what we do. So, at any rate, thanks for the time. And
yeah, that's obviously a great place to leave off. And again, I'll just reiterate that obviously we're not going to explain everything in a couple of podcast episodes. So I would encourage people to reach out and have a conversation to learn more about what the business, the APSU and InfoSystems business means for the local community, you know, answer additional questions about how it's set up, how it operates, And then obviously any questions about the technology, the cloud services, the managed services, and all of the stuff that we're bringing to market. So
Absolutely.
Thanks a lot.
Happy to meet with anybody and have that discussion.
great.
All right. Thank you.